Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're jumping into something that might really challenge how you think about money, about success. We're kind of setting aside the usual advice for a bit because our source material today makes this really bold claim that being rich, it's not just something you might want, it's actually your right.
That's a powerful starting point, isn't it?
It really is.
Yeah.
So our mission here is to unpack this chapter from a text called Your Right to Be Rich. We're going to explore this deep connection, the one between your subconscious mind and, well, having wealth.
Yeah, the link that maybe isn't always obvious.
Exactly. So expect some maybe surprising ideas, but also some really practical stuff you can think about.
Should be interesting.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So let's dive right in with that main idea. The source just puts it out there. It is your right to be rich. Okay, let's unpack that. What does that actually mean for us? Like, beyond just having a bigger bank balance.
Well, what's interesting is how quickly the text moves beyond just, wanting stuff. It says, we're here to lead the abundant life and be happy, radiant, and free.
Okay, abundant life.
Mm-hmm.
So more than just money then.
Absolutely. It's talking about abundance everywhere, spiritual, mental, and material growth. It's about being able to fully develop and express yourself along all lines.
Develop along all lines. Okay.
Yeah. And it even says you should surround yourself with beauty and luxury, have a surplus. And the way to do that, by tapping into the riches of your subconscious mind.
The subconscious, again, we'll definitely need to get into that.
And it connects this desire for riches directly to wanting a fuller, happier, more wonderful life. It calls this a cosmic urge.
A cosmic urge. Wow.
Yeah, saying it's not only good, but also very good. So it's really reframing that whole drive for wealth. It's not greed. It's almost like a natural impulse for growth.
Okay, that definitely shifts the perspective. So if this desire is natural, this cosmic urge, what about money itself? The source says money is a symbol. What's the thinking there? How does that change how we see, actual dollars and cents?
Yeah, that's a good question. The text makes it clear. Money is basically a symbol of exchange. It stands for things like freedom from want, sure, but also beauty, luxury, abundance, and refinement.
So it represents more than just its face value.
Exactly. And crucially, it's presented as a symbol of economic health. There's this great analogy, like blood circulating freely means you're healthy. Well, money circulating freely in your life, that signals economic health. But if you hoard money, if you're driven by fear, that leads to economic illness.
Economic illness. That's quite a phrase.
It is, and it gives some historical context, too, Reminds us money hasn't always been coins and paper.
Right, like salt beads.
Yeah, salt, beads, and trinkets, sometimes even wealth measured in sheep. It just highlights that the form changes. But the role of money as a symbol, as a medium of exchange that stays constant, it kind of strips away the idea that money itself is inherently good or bad.
Okay, that makes sense. So if we're meant for this abundant life, and money is just a healthy symbol, why aren't more people, rich? The source points to things like calling money filthy lucre, or that old saying, the love of money is the root of all evil. Do you think people actually still believe that, even subconsciously?
Oh, absolutely. The source argues that condemning money, or even just having that sneaky subconscious feeling, there is some virtue in poverty.
Virtue in poverty.
Yeah.
You hear that sometimes.
Right. Maybe from early childhood training, it suggests. These are major reasons people lack prosperity. The text actually calls that kind of thinking a confused neurotic mind.
Strong words.
Very. But it also warns about the other extreme, making money your sole aim. You might get rich that way, sure, but the source says it leads to an unbalanced life.
Okay, so it's not just about getting money at all costs.
No, not at all. We're here to lead a balanced life. We also need peace of mind, harmony, love, joy, and perfect health. Wealth is part of that balance, not the whole picture.
That's a really important distinction. Balance. And the source makes another pretty provocative statement. Poverty is a mental disease. What are we supposed to take from that? That sounds harsh.
It does sound harsh, doesn't it? But the way the source frames it, it's like comparing it to a physical illness, something that needs to be addressed, treated.
So not a moral failing, but like a condition.
Exactly. It says if money isn't constantly circulating in your life, then something is radically wrong, and it's quite direct. You are not here to live in a hovel, dress in rags, and go hungry. You should be happy, prosperous, and successful.
Yeah.
The point isn't to judge people in poverty, I think. It's more about empowerment. By calling it a mental disease, it suggests the cause and therefore the cure is internal. It's about your mindset, not just your circumstances. It gives you agency.
Right. Shifting the focus inward. So, if our beliefs are the problem, how do we fix them? How do we tap into this right to be rich? Now, this next bit from the source is really interesting. Never criticize money. Why? That seems counterintuitive.
It really does seem counterintuitive for a lot of people. But the principle behind it is you lose what you condemn, and you cannot attract what you criticize.
Okay.
You lose what you condemn.
Yeah. And this isn't just about criticizing money itself, but also criticizing other people's wealth. The text specifically says, don't call successful people racketeer, crook, or swindler.
Why not? I mean, sometimes maybe they are.
Well, the source's point is that thinking that way, focusing on that negativity, means you're essentially condemning the thing he's praying for. You're pushing away the very wealth you desire by associating it with negativity.
Ah, I see. You're sending mixed signals to your subconscious, maybe.
Exactly. Instead, it says you should make it a special point to rejoice in the wealth of the other person. You have to align your thoughts, your feelings, with abundance, not resentment. And let's be honest, that's tough sometimes, right? Yeah, that requires real mental discipline. So, okay, stop condemning, start rejoicing. How to then actively use our subconscious mind to attract wealth? The source calls it the royal road to riches. How does that work, especially when, the economy's bad or things look uncertain?
This is where it gets really fascinating. The text claims that someone who truly understands and uses these laws, they believe and know they will always be amply supplied. It doesn't matter what the economic situation, stock market fluctuation, depression, strikes, war, other conditions or circumstances are.
Regardless of external factors.
Really, that's the claim.
Yeah.
Because they've conveyed the idea of wealth to his subconscious mind. It even uses the example of German marks after World War I becoming worthless.
Right, hyperinflation.
Yeah, even in a total collapse like that, someone tapped into this subconscious power would still attract wealth and be cared for. The idea is your subconscious operates on the idea of wealth, the feeling of it, not just the current physical form or external validation.
So it's about installing this deep inner conviction of supply.
Precisely. It's like your subconscious is this powerful engine that just manifests whatever dominant idea you feed it, good or bad, lack or abundance. It doesn't really care about stock prices. It cares about your core belief.
Incredible. Okay, so how do we cultivate that? The source gives us simple technique, right, for getting the right attitude toward money.
It does. It offers this very specific affirmation for daily use. It's designed to really impress the subconscious. Want me to read it?
Please do.
Okay. I like money. I love it. I use it wisely, constructively, and judiciously. Money is constantly circulating in my life. I release it with joy, and it returns to me multiplied in a wonderful way. It is good and very good. Money flows to me in avalanches of abundance. I use it for good only, and I am grateful for my good and for the riches of my mind.
Wow. Avalanches of abundance. That's quite visual.
It is, isn't it? And that's likely the point. Strong emotion, vivid imagery, things that bypass the logical, critical mind and speak directly to the subconscious. It's not just wishful thinking. It's about embedding a feeling, an expectation.
I like money. I love it. That's a direct counter to the filthy lucre idea.
Exactly. And speaking of which, the source tackles that money is evil idea head-on from a different angle, too. It asks how a scientific thinker looks at money.
Okay, how does a scientific thinker look at it?
Well, pretty straightforwardly. Money, whether it's gold, copper, paper, whatever, it's just atoms and molecules with their electrons and protons arranged differently.
So just matter, like a rock or water.
Basically, yes. The source argues firmly that all evil comes from man's darkened understanding, from his ignorance, from his false interpretation of life, and from his misuse of his subconscious mind. Money itself isn't good or evil, it's neutral. It's how we think about it and use it that matters.
That really takes the moral charge out of money itself. Okay, this is fascinating conceptually, but let's get practical. The source gives an example, right? The story about the young Australian boy who wanted to be a doctor.
Yes, it's a great illustration. So this boy, he had the dream, but zero money. Big obstacle. But he was advised to plant the idea, the goal, in his subconscious, like a seed. So what he did was, every night for about 4 months, he would picture in his mind's eye a medical diploma on a wall with his name on it in big, bold
Just
letters,
visualizing it.
visualizing it intensely. And he didn't just sit there. He actually worked odd jobs at a medical building and would clean the real diplomas on the wall, reinforcing that image.
Ah, taking action too.
Yes. And the result? A doctor noticed him, hired him, trained him, and eventually paid for him to go to university in Montreal.
Wow.
The source explains this using the law of attraction. Having seen the end, you have willed the means to the realization of the end. The key wasn't just wishing. It was imagining, seeing, feeling the reality of being a doctor so consistently it became a deep conviction.
That conviction seems crucial. It's not just a passing thought.
Exactly. It has to become a dominant belief in the subconscious.
Okay, that shows the positive side. What about the negative? The source also talks about why some men do not get a raise in pay. How does that work?
It's basically the same principle, just in reverse. It links back to that law of action and reaction. If you're constantly, even just silently thinking of and resenting the fact you were underpaid or feeling unappreciated.
Which many people do.
Right. The source says you're subconsciously severing your ties with that organization. That negative mental state creates an action that prompts a reaction, maybe getting overlooked or even let go.
So the boss isn't necessarily the bad guy.
Well, according to this view, the manager is just the instrument through which your own negative mental state was confirmed. Your inner state attracted the outer result. It puts the responsibility, again, squarely back on your own mindset.
That's a challenging thought. Okay, what about something more concrete, like investments? People worry about losing money. Does the source address protecting your investments?
It does. It offers another affirmation specifically for that. Infinite intelligence governs and watches over all my financial transactions, and whatsoever I do shall prosper.
Infinite intelligence.
The advice is to repeat this often. The idea is that by doing so, you'll be guided towards wise investments and protected from loss. You'll apparently be prompted to sell your securities or holdings before any loss accrues to you.
So it's like developing financial intuition through this practice.
Kind of, yeah. Tapping into a deeper intelligence guided by your subconscious, which you've programmed for prosperity and protection, like an internal advisor.
Interesting. And one more comment saying the source tackles, you cannot get something for nothing. How does that fit into this framework?
Well, from this perspective, people trying to get something for nothing are operating from a mental atmosphere of lack and limitation.
Okay, a lack mindset.
Right. And the source says they're not just potentially cheating others, they're actually stealing from themselves peace, harmony, faith, honesty, integrity, goodwill, and confidence.
Stealing from themselves. How so?
Because that mindset of trying to get without giving or without earning, it attracts all manner of loss. Not just financial loss, potentially, but loss of character, loss of inner peace. They're out of sync with the principle of balanced exchange.
So the solution isn't scheming, it's
to connect with the powers of their subconscious mind, but do it with honesty, integrity, and perseverance. True abundance comes from contributing value from that balanced flow.
right. It comes back to balance and integrity. Okay, so we've covered a lot. The right to be rich, the subconscious mindset, affirmations. What's the bottom line here for securing a constant supply of money?
It really boils down to fully recognizing the powers of your subconscious mind and the creative power of your thought or mental image. That, according to the source, is the way to opulence, freedom, and constant supply.
So it's an internal job, first and foremost.
Absolutely. It's about achieving mental acceptance and expectancy of wealth. Getting into the mood of opulence, as the text calls it. Feeling wealthy before the evidence appears, essentially.
The mood of opulence. I like that.
Yeah.
Is there one last affirmation or practice it recommends?
There is a final daily affirmation to really cement this mindset. I am one with the infinite riches of my subconscious mind. It is my right to be rich, happy, and successful. Money flows to me freely, copiously, and endlessly. I am forever conscious of my true worth. I give of my talents freely, and I am wonderfully blessed financially. It is wonderful.
Freely, copiously, endlessly. Very powerful words.
Designed to create that feeling, that conviction.
Okay, so wrapping up this deep dive, the message from this source material is incredibly clear, isn't it? Wealth isn't just nice to have, it's presented as a fundamental right.
Yeah, tied directly to living a full life.
And the path to it isn't necessarily about external strategies, though those might play a role, but fundamentally about mastering your internal world, your subconscious mind, your beliefs, your attitude towards money itself.
That's the core argument, yes.
It leaves you thinking, maybe the real riches we should be pursuing aren't just measured in dollars or pounds. Maybe it's the richness that comes from applying these mental principles, leading to a life that's abundant not just financially, but also full of peace, health, purpose,
Right, a truly balanced abundance.
making the mastery of your own mind perhaps the most valuable asset you could ever possess. Something to think about.